Pokémon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee were released worldwide on November 16th, which, contrary to everything everyone on the internet tried to tell us, are core Pokémon RPG titles. This was confirmed by Junichi Masuda himself in his official Let's Go guidebook interview. What does this mean? Nothing much as far as the topic of this video is concerned. A Pokemon game isn't inherently cooler or better just because it's a main series title, but seeing as a lot of people have been calling the Let's Go games spin-offs as a way of insulting them and diluting their significance, I'm spreading the good word. And the good word is, it's okay to have your own opinions and not be a fan of a thing, but it's not okay to say it has no worth strictly because it's different from the norm, especially because by making the assertion that main series titles are somehow superior, you're dragging tons of fantastic spin-offs that deserve better down with it. Okay? Are we crystal clear? Have we set the tone? Can we move on to talking about the actual meat of the games now? I hope so. Let's do that. If you've played a main series Pokemon game before, then you already know what Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee are structured like. Get a Pokemon, catch other Pokemon, level up your Pokemon, win gym badges, evolve your Pokemon, single-handedly take down an evil organization and become the very best. You know, like no one ever was. At least as far as the region you're confined to is concerned. In particular, the Let's Go games are intended to be remakes of Pokemon Yellow, so they take a lot of their direction and nods from it. Unlike most other installments in the series, you don't choose from 3 starters. You get the adorable one on the cover by default, and a lot of emphasis is put on your relationship with them and its development over time. Because Pokemon Yellow in itself was inspired really heavily by the Pokemon anime series, you also have characters like Jessie, James, and Meowth inserting themselves into the narrative, jokes about Professor Oak's hobby as a poet, and trainers, including gym leaders, with teams that better represent the lineups of their anime counterparts. For those who are familiar with it, there's even some Pokemon Adventures manga influences thrown into the mix. It's all very adorable and nostalgic. Seeing as there are 1,000 different ways to be exposed to the story that unravels in these games and the games they were based on, and you probably have it engraved into your soul at this point, I'm not going to bother with any more details pertaining to it, but I am going to mention one thing in particular. Let's take our rose-colored glasses off for a minute and be honest about Generation 1 Pokemon. As much as a lot of us oldies in particular hold it very near and dear to our hearts, and that's fine, by the way. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Its tale was never as fleshed out and meaningful as it could have been, even when it first got the remake treatment in the form of Fire Red and Leaf Green. 50% of it was told through subtext, like you really gotta squint and look at a variety of sources, including later games in the series to pick up on literally any of it, and the other 50% was told through plot points that were only brought to light to be snuffed out and never addressed again. And admittedly, a lot of it is still like that in Let's Go. Do we find out how it was that Team Rocket's incompetent and very obvious grunts managed to evade police and league detection when they were occupying an arcade and a Pokemon gym? No. Do we have a conversation with Mr. Fuji about the fact that we found the anthropomorphic cat he illegally bioengineered and held captive against its will as a young scientist in a cave? Could have been pretty juicy, but no. Do we get confirmation that Red and Green sat down at some point after the events of their respective journeys to have a talk about all of the presumed insecurity issues the latter took out on the former and are back to being good buddies like they used to be when they were little kids? You guessed it. Nope. I'm really bummed out about that one personally. If anybody's interested, I'll be sure to let you know when my cathartic fan comic on the subject is out of its drafting phase. But it's hard to complain too much, because what we do get are soulful and creative character redesigns, fluidly animated cutscenes for the most important moments in the story, environments that are now souped up with so much thoughtful decor you'd think they were from a Zelda game, and wow, hold the phone, competent NPCs who won't stand for Team Rocket's nonsense, and in some cases battle alongside you to help drive them off? That's awesome! That is a Generation 1 first, well worth celebrating, you guys! So even though Let's Go's plot-based content dropped the ball in some of the same ways that Kanto unfortunately always does, and its storytelling is nowhere near on point as, say, Black and White's or Sun and Moon's, it's definitely the best and most lovingly crafted iteration of it we've ever been treated to, with heart, depth, and character development to boot. But don't worry, we can be sure to revisit this topic in a decade when they remake them again. Another thing these games really expanded upon from Yellow and even Heart Gold and Soul Silver is the mechanic of spending time and bonding with your Pokémon by allowing them to accompany you outside of their balls. It paves the way for all kinds of cute interactions that you could absolutely imagine happening at points throughout your journey, but now you don't have to. You actually get to experience your Squirtle playing in a fountain you happen to pass by, your Ivysaur burying its nose in a patch of flowers, and your Charizard reveling in the warmth of the sun as you glide through the air on its back. This is the stuff that my dreams have been made of since I was a kid, and I know I'm not alone in that. I mentioned earlier that a lot of emphasis is put on your relationship with your starter Pokémon in particular, and I meant it. Once you've spent enough time together for them to become accustomed to you, you know, like 20 minutes of gameplay. Just like pets in real life, they'll climb up on your shoulder or hop onto your head and a brand new option will become available in your pause menu. Play with Pikachu or Eevee. This is similar to Pokemon Ami in X and Y and Pokemon Refresh in Sun and Moon, but way more personalized, seeing as the developers only had 2 cuties to focus all their attention on. While playing with your pal, you don't only have the ability to pet, feed, and high-five them, you can also touch or poke certain parts of their body to garner different reactions. For example, keeping your hand positioned near their nose might make them giggle and sneeze because it tickles, and squishing their cheeks repeatedly inspires them to make a funny face. It's so adorably addictive that you'll never get tired of it, especially because each time you check in on them, they'll be expressing themselves or reacting to their surroundings in a different way. Sometimes you'll even be prompted to play with them so you can see their response to something that just happened in the plot. And they give you presents. A rusty old earring you found on the sidewalk somewhere? Thank you, Pikachu. Thank you so much for this beautiful piece of garbage and my life. I'll cherish it forever. As you progress through the game, you can also unlock secret techniques for them. They effectively replace HMs, which I'm so glad Game Freak seems to be committing to, and allow you to blow past blockades of all kinds, traverse the waters, and quick jump to towns you've already been to. Did I mention that these techniques don't take up any of Pikachu or Eevee's move slots, and you can always use them regardless of whether or not they're fainted or currently in your party? Oh man, the convenience. I genuinely feel spoiled. And look at my radical little surfer dude go! As far as the rest of the gameplay goes, the first concern I had about the concept of Let's Go pertained to how the removal of wild Pokemon battles would affect balancing. But I was slowly relieved of that concern as I watched it work for all 30 hours of my main campaign gameplay. Save for one aspect I'll address later, Pokemon Go's capture mechanic is integrated so smoothly. Filling out your Pokédex is still just as challenging, addicting, and rewarding as it's always been, but this refreshing new spin made me feel like I was doing it in the Kanto region for the first extremely exciting and doe-eyed time. Not to mention the fact that the items and EXP you receive from catching and chaining Pokemon are so plentiful, you'll never find yourself at a disadvantage. Because of how much capturing I did early on trying to get the best IV'd Pokemon possible for my main team, I actually found myself over-leveled and fully stocked on berries more often than not. As an additional note, because grinding is so easy and accessible and you can find so many more evolved Pokemon than usual in the wild, I took to selling items that I would have normally stockpiled to aid in dex completion near the end of the game. I'm talking about rare candies. They go for 5,000 Pokédollars a piece. Do you know how many Pokéballs you can buy with 5,000 Pokédollars? Which you can then convert into loads more EXP than just a level's worth? So don't even think twice about it. Sell them. I also sold a chunk of my abundance of stat and Pokemon specific candies, the output of which you can multiply to ridiculous quantities through chains. They aren't worth much individually, but just like pennies, they do add up. By the way, the candy system in itself is super cool. It's a much better alternative to effort values, which I've never liked personally, mostly because they're so vague and easy to screw up. If you're watching this, have been playing Pokemon games for a long time and have no idea what effort values are, you basically just proved my point, so thanks for that. But if you're curious or just happen to need a refresher, effort values, otherwise known as EVs, are hidden values your Pokemon can accrue by battling certain other species of Pokemon. They're essentially stat bonuses that stack on top of their already existing base stats. For example, if you were to have your Pokemon KO 20 Ponyta in the wild, they would earn 20 bonus speed stat points. But the catch is, there's a cap per Pokemon, not only for each of their stats, but for the number of effort points you can gain total. And once you hit that cap, you can't undo your work or reallocate any of those effort value points. Meaning, you could dump hours and hours and hours into leveling a Pokemon all the way up to 100 without being cognizant of this extra edge you could be giving them. Let's Go's stat-specific candies allow you to distribute those points to whatever Pokemon you want, 100% of your own volition, free of accidents or research. It's so friendly and attainable for newcomers and veterans alike. I hope they stick around long term. My only real beef with their integration is that we really could have benefited from a slider or a feed as much as possible button. I'm old, have carpal tunnel, and can't mash like I used to. So spending over 20 minutes of gameplay hand-feeding my Pokemon one candy per 2 button presses is not very fun. And hey, while we're on the subject of beefs, we've been speaking pretty positively about the games thus far, so let me talk about a few more. For as much as Generation 1's storyline and characters have been improved upon, certain parts of it that desperately needed them went untouched. Namely the spaces in Kanto that amount to complete and utter grind fests, like Rock Tunnel, Lavender Tower, and Silph, just to name a few. Just for clarification, I'm not saying there should have been fewer trainer battles or anything, but more padding in the form of cutscenes, partnering up with an ally character for the duration of a dungeon, or little breakaway events with your starter Pokemon taking interest in the scenery would have been very welcome. And I've gotta be honest and mention the jankiness with the motion controls. Alright, jankiness might not be entirely accurate, but I can't really say for sure. And that's more or less the problem. The Pokeball throwing tutorial at the start of the game doesn't teach you how to do anything other than throw the ball dead center. So when you progress past Viridian Forest and suddenly start coming across Pokemon that move to different parts of the screen, you're suddenly in a godless world. You have no idea how you should be angling your Joy-Con or how much force you should be swinging it with. At the time that I'm writing this, I've played over 40 hours of Let's Go Pikachu, and I'm only just now kind of working out how to consistently throw my ball at the same spot on the right side of the screen. Needless to say, that's not good. For the record, I really adore the motion controls in all other regards. It feels especially cool to roleplay throwing a Pokeball with my Pokeball Plus. Like, what a time to be alive! But oh my goodness, did we need a better tutorial. Just a better tutorial was all we needed. Please just show me how I should be holding my controller before you fling me into the wilderness. Last and probably least, actually. This is kind of minor. The variety in outfits and accessories your player character and starter could wear was great, and the ability to play dress up and alter appearances improves any game in any genre. I just wish that the concepts weren't the only things that had variety. Look at all these pants I've amassed throughout my journey, and you might get a sense of what I'm saying. They're all the exact same length and shape, basically the same model with different coloring, which holds true for the hats and tops too. Just a little diversity in the form of a pair of skinny jeans or even some cargo shorts could have salvaged it for me. But like I said, pretty minor complaint. So as far as issues to have with anything go, I can honestly come out and say that none of them even vaguely soured the experience for me. Personally, I'm always a lot more lenient when it comes to criticizing the games that make me smile the entire time I'm playing them, and Let's Go Pikachu did exactly that. This isn't to say that I had low expectations by any means. I knew I'd adore this game more than any other console game I played this year going in, because come on! But I did stall my expectations at a certain bar that I was confident it wouldn't vault. Turns out, I was wrong in the best way possible. Even with its faults, Let's Go Pikachu is one of the best Pokémon games I've ever had the pleasure of playing, both as a revitalization of one of the biggest parts of my childhood and an adventure as a whole. I recommend it and Let's Go Eevee to everyone looking to have a fun and heartwarming time. And if the first generation 8 installments coming out on the Switch are half as inspired and gorgeous looking as these remakes, then we have a lot to look forward to. Oh yeah, I've never been one to talk much about hardware beyond going on and on about how nice textures and shapes feel, but I'm gonna make an exception this time, because how often is it that we get custom controllers shaped like Pokeballs? Not very. The bottom line is, the Pokeball Plus is a really neat multifunctional novelty with the added bonus of having a Mew waiting for you inside. It's all sorts of fun to use and hold. If you're a 10-year-old at heart like I am, want to feel like a Pokemon trainer throwing a Pokeball in real life, are interested in every facet of its multifunctionality and can shell out the money, then what are you still watching this video for? Go grab it! If you're only interested in one facet of its multifunctionality and are budgeting pretty heavily, then maybe not. It's all a matter of how much use you'd be getting out of it. And in a case where you're considering buying it just for the sake of having Kanto's token mythical Pokemon, you'd barely be getting anything for the value. So like with all else, shop smart. So that's not everything I have to say about Let's Go, but I'm pretty sure I nailed all the most important and non-spoilery points. Do you have something in mind that I didn't touch on? Want to share what kind of outfit your Pikachu or Eevee is rocking? Drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear all about them. As always, thanks for watching. I hope you guys are having and continue to have an awesome holiday season.